Hello, everyone. Thank you for your interest in this presentation, a forest fire forecasting system to strengthen information systems for forest fire decision-making in Peru. My name is Blanca Ponce, and I am part of the technical team of the South America Regional Fire Program of the U.S. Forest Service and USAID. As part of the technical team is Harry Bolshevik and Andrea Marcos. The scientific leader of the team is Matt Jolie from the Missoula Fire Laboratory, Enrique Alvarado of the University of Washington, and Vania Gandio Rodriguez from the National Meteorological and Hydrological Service of Peru, CENAMI. We are currently working on strengthening forest fire forecasting systems in the South America region, but in this case, we will present the case of Peru. It is important to first give a context about Peru. In this slide, we visualize the location of Peru in South America, and this allows us to identify how the Andes cross the country longitudinally, generating diverse of ecoregions, such as the Pacific Desert, the dry forests of the north, the Paramos, the steppes, the Puna, and the Amazonian ecoregion. In all countries, there is always a critical year that marks the turning point for the construction of fire management policies. In the case of Peru, it was 2016. That year, there were emergencies in 14 of the 24 regions of the country due to simultaneous large-scale fires, which confronted us with the harsh reality. There was no interinstitutional coordination or installed capacity for forest fire response. Peru lacked an interinstitutional group for decision making. There was no source of information to know the active or reported fires during the season. There was no plan related to forest fire risk management, added to a legal framework where fire is still prohibited in any form. This event allowed important decisions to be made in Peru, as we will see in the following slide. This slide is very important because it summarizes the timeline of the decision taken as a result of critical events that occurred in the country. In the upper part, we can see the critical event occurred in each year, and in the lower part, the decision taken. In 2016, as I mentioned, regional and national emergency level were generated due to multiple forest fires. This allowed that in 2017, in the multi-sectoral platform of the National Disaster Risk Management System, SINAGER, the decision was taken by majority to incorporate forest fire within the hazard address, allowing the generation of budget and multi-sectoral coordination for their attention once the emergency was declared by the competent authority. Likewise, in 2018, forest fire prevention and control plans were generated for the first time. One of them is the national plan published by the National Forestry and Wildlife Service, CERFO, and the other was a document published by the National Service of Natural Protected Areas by the state, SARNAM, as well as the forest fire danger scenario at the national level prepared by CENEPRED. Likewise, the agencies that generate information for decision-making in fire management were organized and created an activity within a multi-sectorial program, which allowed them to coordinate their activities to achieve opportunities for articulation and avoid duplication of efforts. This point will be discussed in the next slide. In 2019, the fires developed in the Brazilian and Bolivian Amazon, as well as their increase in the Peruvian Amazon, brought the eyes of the world to this region and allowed political interests to grow and international agreements to be reached, as well as the creation of an interinstitutional fire group where different institutions participate for coordination and decision making. This group does not have an official designation, but identifies the political interest to articulate. In 2020, the COVID pandemic generated a series of transcendental decisions in Peru. Among them, the strict confinement, which generated a massive internal return migration from capital cities and urban areas to rural areas. This increased the frequency of ignition and added to critical atmospheric conditions, there was a considerable increase in forest fire. Coincidentally, some projects dedicated to fire prevention and control were implemented in some regions of the country, having to adapt to the pandemic context. As mentioned above, the agency generation information at the national level, such as CENAMI, IGP, Ministry of the Environment, CERNAM, and CERFOR, organize themselves to generate three main types of services: fire forecasting, detection and surveillance, and calculation of affected areas. Within the forecast and favorable conditions services, it is important to highlight the generation of daily reports of the Fire Weather Index, FWI, and other meteorological information by the National Service of Meteorology and Hydrology of Peru, CENAMI, implemented in 2018. However, despite the progress made, there are still significant challenges to be faced by the institutions, such as the lack of a unique platform to consolidate information collected at all the scales in the system, the lack of coordination and consistency in response actions, little research and data collection, and the most important, the disconnection between information generated at national and local scales. According to what was explained in the previous slides and to the diagnosis made with the Peruvian partner agencies, the importance of strengthening the forecast information generated by CENAMI was determined. This information will allow the construction of services at different temporal and spatial scales for planning fire prevention, preparedness, and tactical response activities, as we can see in the graph. These decisions also took into consideration that the FWI is part of Peru's official monitoring system. It is important to emphasize that the implementation of the activities is being carried out on a solid scientific basis and validated for the natural and social reality of the country. And its design responds to the need of or the necessity for it to be easy to use by the authorities. Likewise, it should be linked to real decision-making activities during the fire season in Peru. So it will include national, regional, and local scope. The technical approach considers these four main points: evaluate the current operational system and decision structures, analyze the existing fire forecast products, work with the responsible agencies such as CENAMI at the national scale that is part of the team, but also with regional governments like Cusco at the regional scale or indigenous communities at the local scale, and identify strengths and weaknesses of the forecast products to implement and communicate improvements in short term and explore additional resources to improve the capabilities of the system. Information alone doesn't allow good decisions to be made. It is important to have an integral view, considering not only the knowledge of the risk and adequate thresholds for detection of alert levels, but also considering the mechanisms for dissemination of information and the response capacity of field personnel at the different levels of action. Here, I want to stop for a minute To give a clear example that happens in Peru, WhatsApp is an unofficial means of dissemination that has a great reach throughout the territory, generating replication mechanism with an impressive speed. Therefore, it is important to consider it when we are going to design the alert reports. Likewise, Quechua, the second official language in Peru, is also another factor to consider. It has been a challenge to summarize the activities we are carrying out in Peru in only 15 minutes. So I invite you to listen to the talks of my colleagues, which will allow you to complement the information of this presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.